Kembali bersama kami di Prime Words dan masih bersama kami di sini His Excellency Owen Jenkins. So we'll continue our discussion.
Great.
We're going to talk more about the investment. So as we know, the British Minister for International Trade, Anne-Marie Trevelyan, has visited Indonesia in the last February. So her visit such commending more about commitment for investment in Indonesia. There are a few sectors mentioned, such as the green energies and to the digital sectors. So how does UK see in Indonesia's potential for investment?
Indonesia has extraordinary potential. I think it's clear that as the fourth most populous country in the world and a rising power, it will be one of the great economic powers of the 21st century. So I think the ability of British companies and Indonesian companies to trade, I think, is to the benefit of both, and I think the sky is the limit. So when our Secretary of State for International Trade, Anne-Marie Trevelyan, was here, she saw that potential for herself, and I think saw how complementary the two economies are and how there is enormous potential for benefit in the digital space, in the area of financial services, in education, in renewable energy, in transport, in infrastructure. The list goes on. And I know that she returned to London determined to build the relationship further.
Okay, so talking about the renewable energy, so is there any interest from the UK to do the investment for the battery for the electric vehicle?
Absolutely. There's great interest in working with Indonesia on those supply chain issues. And as I mentioned earlier, there was this terrific deal signed last week between British Volt, which is an electric vehicles battery company in the UK, and VKTR, an Indonesian company, to do exactly that. And I think that's the sort of thing I meant when I talked about these complementary economies, where Indonesia has amazing natural resources, can develop them, can add value here in Indonesia, export products to the UK where they can be used in batteries. And we're seeing interest in other fields as well. So there are British companies here like Lightsource BP or Shire Oak who want to invest in solar power, for example, whether in rooftops or floating solar, supporting the Indonesian government's targets in that area.
Okay, so there's a lot of things.
There's a lot going on.
So how do you see Indonesia competitiveness compared to our peers, to the other countries in the regions, and considering all the aspects such as regulations and then infrastructures and also manpowers?
So we all need to keep working on our competitiveness, and that's the UK too. I think we live in a competitive world. Infrastructure, education, regulation in other countries is constantly changing. And I think the government of Indonesia, and particularly President Joko Widodo, really recognise that. And I think they've made some really important moves to make sure that Indonesia remains an attractive investment destination for foreign companies, including from the UK. We've talked a little bit about the Omnibus Law in that context, and that was, I think, a really intelligent move and very welcome. And I think we will continue to talk, including through our Joint Economic and Trade Committee, about other areas where lowering regulation or changing regulation can improve the mutually beneficial trade.
Okay, it's very interesting. But we do know that not only the capital flow, but we do actually need more of technologies, adoption to support all this investment, to support all these projects. So will the investment followed by maybe a technology transfer from UK? Absolutely,
and it's already happening. So we've seen, for example, an agreement between Babcock, which is a British shipbuilding company, and PT PAL in Surabaya to build British-designed frigates in Indonesia, in Surabaya. And that will transfer some really advanced technology, some shipbuilding technology in that area. The same will be true in the areas of renewable energy, where some of the new British technologies, including for tidal power, will be coming to Indonesia. And also true, I think, in the life sciences, where there is real British expertise, which I think can support some of the ambitions which Indonesia has in that area. It's also true, I'd say, in less tangible areas, such as education, where I think British universities are keen to come into Indonesia and form partnerships. And I think that's a form of technology transfer and knowledge transfer. And hopefully will boost Indonesia's human capital as well.
We love that, of course. But back to the energy investment.
Sure.
So back to the plan to do the investment for the battery for the electric vehicles. So is there any what SIAP do you have? Is there any plan to build maybe a battery plant or something?
So Indonesia has made clear that it wants to move up the value chain in this area. So it doesn't just want to produce nickel, for example. It wants to add value to it here, build plants which add that value, are more technologically advanced, and we want to support that. So yes, I mean it's early days, and the plans are still being worked out. But I think there's huge potential, not just for trade, but for investment here, which brings that technology, which brings that value added to Indonesia and pushes it up the value chain in the way that the President has talked about.
Okay. So we're moving on to another project maybe. So you can also highlight the cooperation for the Jakarta MRT project. I wonder if you could tell us more about this one.
Yes, so we're very keen to cooperate on this, and British companies have already been involved in the MRT on the North-South line, doing some of the engineering, some of the design work, and supplying some equipment. And we'd like to take that to the next level in the East-West line, and this was something which our Secretary of State for International Trade talked about when she was in Jakarta in February. And we'd like to bring more British companies and more British financing to this as well. There's a large amount of government-backed financing, up to £4 billion, which can support this sort of cooperation, and companies with real expertise in this area. I'm a Londoner, and I'm very proud of London's transport infrastructure. It is great, and I think that sharing some of that expertise, bringing some of the knowledge that we've gained, for example, through our Crossrail project, which is not unlike the East-West project here, I think can be a real advantage on both sides. So that's what we'd like to do.
Yeah, and maybe some British style.
Very happy to.
Okay, so moving on to another plan to do the investment. So we know Indonesia is planning to build and move the capital city from Jakarta to a place we called Nusantara in East Kalimantan. So, okay, there's a lot we can do together. Is there an interest from UK to support maybe for the investment in the new capital city?
So we've got some involvement already, and there have been conversations in London, which is of course one of the world's financial centres. I think the UK believes very strongly in private sector-led development, and most of our own development is funded in that way. And we'd be very happy to take forward conversations about how Indonesia can mobilise the finance that it needs through the extraordinary capabilities in the City of London. And I think that would be a very interesting conversation to take forward. I think there's also enthusiasm in the UK for the capital city, and so I think those conversations would be very well received.
Okay, so what do you think about the former British Prime Minister, Tony Blair? As we know, he has been mentioned as the consultant for the new capital city.
Well, he's of course a private citizen now, so he won't speak for the government. But I do think he is he's a statesman of extraordinary experience. He led the UK for a long time, introduced a lot of reforms, has a huge amount of experience in a range of things. So I think it's great that he's involved in his private capacity. But I think there are other things which the UK will want to bring as well. We've talked a little bit about urban design, about investment. There will be equipment that's needed as well, and education services as well, where I think, again, the human capital aspect of this should be not ignored.
Okay, thank you very much for your time, Your Excellency.
My pleasure, thank you.
It's our pleasure to have you here on Prime Word, so have a good luck for you.
Thank you.
And have a great day for you too.
Thank you,
Thank
you
you
too.
very much. Dan demikian perbincangan kami bersama dengan Duta Besar Inggris untuk Indonesia, His Excellency Owen Jenkins. CNBC Indonesia, Beyond Business.